Hey everyone, welcome back to our channel, We're the Movie Couple. I'm Wendy.
I'm Dustin.
And this is our non-spoiler review for The Conjuring 3, The Devil Made Me Do It. So The Conjuring 3, this one is actually focused, yes, the Warrens are still in it, but this one's actually inspired by a true story, and that is the Arne Johnson case back in the early 80s. I think it was like 1981, actually.
Yeah.
This was one of the first cases where they claimed that the defendant, Arne, was possessed by evil, demon, all of that, and that was the case. And that's what this story is kind of inspired by and based on. So, truth be told, I haven't really looked too much into the Arne Johnson case to know what depicted was in the movie was what was actually presented in the court versus what story they wanted to tell with The Conjuring, with this installment of The Conjuring. However, I will say that throughout all the Conjuring films, aside from having fun, well, for me, having fun in a horror movie, it's kind of the story of, Ed and Lorraine's work and all these, crazy findings that they have from, Annabelle to The Nun to all the other stuff. So that's kind of what I would, aside from the Arne Johnson stuff, I was really looking forward to see what part Ed and Lorraine played in this one. So with that said, I will also say that you don't necessarily need to watch Conjuring 1 or 2.
I haven't. This is actually the very first Conjuring movie that I have seen. I have not seen any of the other ones.
Yeah.
And I probably won't.
I'm not going to make Dustin see any more horror movies. I feel like I made him sit through Quiet Place 2, but you enjoyed that one a lot.
Quiet Place 2 was actually enjoyable.
Well, John Krasinski himself said that he's like, I didn't make a horror movie. I made a movie about family and survival.
Yeah.
So, technically. Anyways, back to our main review. So, without having seen the first two Conjuring and then kind of jumping right into this one and having a little bit of knowledge of Ed and Lorraine, their work, how was your experience with this film?
I am definitely not the demographic for this movie. I thought the movie kind of started off on kind of an intense note, but there were a lot of moments that I thought were kind of cliche, even for me, who hasn't really seen very many horror movies. Even though it was scary and it was intense, and there were very many parts where I'm like, okay, I'm just sitting down eating my popcorn here. There were still moments that I kind of thought were like, I've seen this before in a trailer for another horror movie, and I saw this moment, but they still kind of did a good job of setting up the story.
Yes, so kind of to give you a little bit of the premise of this film, we already talked about Arne Johnson, and this was inspired by the kind of this true story that's what's inspired this movie. The movie sort of started out with David, the younger boy, being possessed, and there was kind of them working through the exorcism through that, and then before Arne was possessed. So I'll just give you guys that much at the very beginning of the film so you can kind of understand where it's going. I felt like, yes, some of the horror movie tropes were there, and if you're a horror film lover, I think a lot of these jump scares won't work on you because you will see them coming. But what I do,
they really did, set up. You can kind of tell when it's coming because they'll do something with the sound or the very cliche kind of music or that intense build up. So I kind of knew when to kind of eat my popcorn.
Distraction.
Mm-hmm.
What I kind of do like about all these Conjuring films is, especially what James Wan did with the first one, was that the scares, yes, some follow the tropes, but some are really creative, where he was really good about kind of drawing your attention to this one spot, but then the scare is going to come from elsewhere. I kind of loved that. We saw a little bit less of that in this film, but we did see a lot of similar camera work. The playing with light and sound I really enjoyed because they go from something really, really loud to completely still, silent. Mm-hmm. And that silence can be really scary in a movie. Normal ambient sounds can be really, really scary in a horror movie because it's just unsettling, and it's also sounds that we potentially could hear from our day-to-day lives, and that always rings a little bit more kind of creepy and scary to me than loud booms and stuff like that, because you kind of expect that and then like the amp up of the music and things like that. But I love how they play with light. For example, there's one instance where Lorraine is in the forest. We saw this in the trailer, so this part I do not consider to be spoiler, but it's daytime, and as she felt, this energy draw her in, they shifted and the shadow moved, and all of a sudden she's like boom in her trance, and she's kind of following this energy and doing what she does. And I loved seeing that. They had a lot of those instances in this film, and I liked seeing that a lot, the different transitions. And then I will say, scary funness aside, this film, it started off strong for me. I was really into it. I think any film with exorcism can really, really freaks me out.
Yeah.
Kind of the way that
whole shifting of the body.
Does not
they
sit
did
well
that a
with
couple
me.
of times in this movie.
But in the first act though, it was so good where I was like, oh, I can't look, and I love that. I love kind of feeling like that, knowing that I'm going into a horror movie, and you're like, why do you put yourself through it? Because I like that like kind of stress and anxiety, and then the release afterwards kind of feels good. I don't watch horror movies on a day-to-day basis, but when I do get into, a fun one where you're kind of like, yeah, so you're just a little bit hyped. I will say, for me, the movie started really, really strong. By the time we moved to the third act, for me, it's lost steam. It became a little tropey, more tropey than I expected it to be, a little bit predictable. And I also thought that, for me, the movie went in a really different direction than I originally thought. I thought it was going to focus on this core story that we were presented. Instead, they took us in a different direction in order to connect the two. I understand what they were going for. I would love if they try to stay on course.
Yeah.
Because I felt like they really went off, and I was like, no.
They really did kind of have, they kind of sold us on this idea that, it was going to be about Arne. It was going to be about this kind of murder case that happened. And they kind of just used that as the gimmick at first. They set up the gimmick, and you're like, okay, I want to hear more about it. But then they just decided to go, okay, now this is the part where we have to make up something that connects to the murder, to the court case of Arne. So let's just make up something like this. And you're kind of like, you kind of went off track here. You really should have kept it focused on him.
Yeah, I really would have liked to see that. And not that I mind, because there were also really great moments still within the story where we ended up with, but I would have liked to see if they stayed on course. Aside from that, I really enjoyed watching Patrick Wilson and Vera Farmiga as Ed and Lorraine. I think this is like Vera Farmiga's movie. She is excellent in this movie, and she's excellent in everything she does, but this one, her performance felt really powerful to me, and she really kind of like stood on her as her own. Like, I feel like for a lot of the past movies, maybe Conjuring 3 had a little bit more about Patrick Wilson and his path because of the nun and that connection there. Two, sorry.
Because I was going, I don't know what you're talking about, so it's obviously one that I haven't seen yet.
Sorry, two. Conjuring 2. And I felt like this one, with Lorraine, like it really showcased, just really highlighted Vera's talent in this one. I love seeing her as Lorraine, like she becomes her for me. I love the two working together. I really wouldn't mind if there was a Conjuring 4, as long as I can see these two together.
Yeah,
so,
and I think that's really what sells these movies.
Yes.
Is that you go to see these two. You go to see the Warrens.
Yeah.
You go to see their adventure. It's kind of like, just like if they had made a journal, this just happens to be another case in their journal book.
Absolutely. And also, earlier we were saying that you don't necessarily need to see The Conjuring or The Conjuring 2 in order to understand this film, and that is completely true, because it's been a minute since I've watched Conjuring 1 or 2, and I kind of just felt like I jumped back into the Conjuring verse and was totally fine with it. But if you had seen the first and second one, there's little bits and pieces of the Easter eggs that you can pick up. And I think even as the general audience, I think if you're aware of these films and have seen the trailers, because I know you picked up a couple of the little Easter eggs that were thrown in as well. Mm-hmm. So just kind of let you be aware of if you're thinking, do I really need to do like a Conjuring marathon? Sure. I mean, the answer should be yes. Just have fun with it. But if you don't have the time, you want to be able to jump into this one, you do not need a prerequisite watch of The Conjuring 1 and 2. So, with all that said, let's go ahead and rate this film. Dustin, your rating.
You always go from me first.
Okay, I can go first.
No, it's okay.
Okay, sorry.
Because I'm going to kind of cop out on this one. We have a rating just for this scenario. It's not for me. It is
It's not for you.
It's not my cup of tea kind of thing. It's not what I like. I did not enjoy sitting through it. There was moments where I was just like, when is this over? Constantly looking at my watch, just waiting to be able to be like, okay, we're out of here, let's go.
Yeah. But you did it. You soldiered through.
I soldiered through.
For you guys and for this review, we did it. You guys, you know me. I enjoy horror films. I enjoy that a little bit of adrenaline rush. Maybe I like to, I don't know, make myself suffer through these films, because I do feel that anxiety sometimes where I'm just like, I don't want to see what's coming, because those images sometimes stick with me, or they come at the worst time possible, like alone in the bathroom or like doing laundry and it's at night and I'm by myself and I start thinking about that. It's the worst.
That was something else that I've really noticed. I'm like, why are they in a dark room? Why do they only have one light on? Why aren't they like, I would have like every single, I mean, especially if I just saw what they just saw, I would be like, okay, we're trying to figure out what's going on here. Light. Oh, here, can we bring in the light from the other room?
All the lights, please. Candles, flashlights, car headlights,
but they're
everything.
like, no, we only need one light to do this complicated mystery board.
Yeah. Oh, before I jump into my review, my rating as well, I just want to say there are some very creative creatures and monsters looks in this one. That a couple of them that I really enjoy. I thought that was pretty creative. Not as creative as the Cricket Man. That still probably is my favorite. That and the Nun, I really enjoyed, but still, you know, kind of you look at it on screen, you're like, no. So just wanted to point that out before I give my rating. And for me, I enjoy horror movies. If you enjoyed Conjuring 1 and 2, you'll probably have a lot of fun in this one. And my rating for this movie is check it out. So there you have it. That is our non-spoiler thoughts on The Conjuring 3, The Devil Made Me Do It. Let us know your thoughts on the movie when you go and see it in theaters or at home. Comment below your thoughts. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and we'll see you in the next one.